This version of the opposite arm and leg raise is a little bit more of a progression of some other versions that you may have seen. This is typically also called the bird dog exercise. Very frequently I find that the exercise is not cued properly, so we see a lot of body parts moving that shouldn't be moving. Now keep in mind that when we're correcting muscle imbalances, we want to be as precise as possible. So in this 4-point position, that's where your hand is underneath your shoulder and your knee is directly underneath your hip. We want to make sure that the spinal column is in the ideal alignment. Now from this, we can easily do this by doing a pelvic tilt, tucking under, which lifts, rounding the lumbar spine. Then we go the opposite direction, which causes an extension of the lumbar spine. And what we can do is allow that to relax a little bit to find what we would call the neutral position. Now, once that's done, we also need to concern ourselves with the thoracic spine and the neck. Normally correcting the thoracic spine is very simple, is imagining lifting the sternum up toward your head. So that's going to lift the sternum and then cause the head to go down. So that'll elongate the spine. A quick trick for this is to also use a stick. You can use a wooden dowel rod that's about 5 feet, 6 feet long. You can even use a broomstick. And it doesn't matter as long as it's not warped, so it actually is a good measurement tool. So if this stick was placed across the back, we would have 3 points of contact. We would have the sacrum, we would have the thoracic spine, and the back of the head. So if the spine is in the right position, I should be able to just fit my hand underneath the stick between the spine and the stick. And of course, we would be able to make contact with the back of the head and the thoracic spine without the spine being too rounded, which would create essentially a teeter-totter between those 2 points. So we can use the stick as a biofeedback tool, which will give us good information about how well we're doing on the exercise as well. If the stick is rolling off the back, falling off, we know that we need to improve our balance and our performance of the exercise. We're going to slowly kick this right leg straight behind. And notice as we do that, there's no change in the lumbar curve, so we're getting nice hip extension, not lumbar extension, so that works the glute. We're going to keep the knee straight as much as possible and point the toe away. Now, from that, notice that there's not too much rotation. If the stick is rolling off, a lot of times it's common when the hip flexors are tight to lift up too high, the whole pelvis starts to roll, and also if there's weakness in this hip and the stick comes off. So we want to make sure that that hip is slightly down, so we've got a nice surface for that stick to rest on. And we don't have too much rotation happening. So once we've got the leg kicked straight out, we're going to use the opposite arm, and we're going to lift that arm straight out with the thumb to the sky. Now it doesn't have to be perfect in line with the body, it can come out to the side a little bit up to 45 degrees. And you notice that she's doing a very good job at this, keeping the spinal curve the same, maintaining head contact with the opposite arm and leg straight out. We hold for the allotted amount of time on the program, usually around 10 seconds, but can be longer. Now the first thing to do is to bring the arm back down so you're nice and stable, and then we learn how to bring the hip back in without changing the spinal curve. So break the lock in the knee, bring it right back down to the start. We can take a few seconds to gather ourselves, okay, fix any curves that need to be corrected, so we're right in alignment again, and then we can start with the other side. First thing to start with is to bring the leg straight back behind you. Just from the hip, no change in that lumbar curve, knee straight, toe pointed, and the opposite hand. So that's going to be the right, thumb up to the sky, slightly out to the side, doesn't have to be perfectly in line with the body. We hold, not too much spinal rotation, so if I let go of that stick, it's not moving. And then the hand goes down first, we break the lock in the knee, and then that comes back in as well. So many people will have challenges with getting that stick to stay in place, particularly if there's a problem with hip extension flexibility. So some stretches may need to be done prior to doing this exercise, or the range of motion may need to be reduced just slightly in order to stop that hip from moving around too much. But holding those 3 points in contact, getting the opposite arm and leg out, will get a nice conditioning effect across all of those stabilizers and create a great amount of balance across the backside of the body.